The last area where we lived on the Big Island before we moved here was in Honolulu, which is Hilo side. We were there for about 10 months while I served Hilo Coast UCC. It was a beautiful place. If you ever make it to the Big Island, I highly recommend Honolulu. It's a gorgeous place. And the church and the parsonage were on 4 acres of land, most of which was an orchard. So it was gorgeous, gorgeous place. Now, Virginia is also a gorgeous place, I will add. I love the change of seasons and the hardwoods. One of the issues that we had as a church with the property was the wild pigs. Has anyone ever seen a wild pig? Yeah? It's a trip, right? Oh. And when they run, they have these little legs, and they're fast, really fast. And so before we moved there, evidently there was one of the neighbors behind us, behind the parsonage, had some hunting dogs. And that took care of all the wild pigs right there. He would run those dogs and run the pigs away. But he and his family moved to another area of the island, so we no longer had that protection. And the season was particularly dry for the area, and so the pigs were hungry because they're always looking for damp spaces that they can dig. They can dig into the grass and dig into the ground and eat the grubs and the worms and find fruit. And we had all of that on the property, more than they could eat. And so it was a trip, I'm telling you. We would come home and there would be a herd of like 12 pigs. Big pigs, small pigs, medium-sized, digging, and they tear your property up. If you ever have a wild pig on your property, get him off or get her off, because it will tear your property up. And so we tried everything we could. One of the members put up an electric fence, and he started with a certain area of the property, and that didn't work, and so he extended the electric fence to other areas of the property. Before I left, he had the whole place electrified, electric fence around the whole place. And guess what? Those pigs just kept coming back. They might leave for a couple of weeks, and then I would drive up into the driveway at night, and there they would be, feeding and hanging out. I even saw one of the pigs one day coming onto the property, and he or she went underneath the electric fence, and it shocked her, and he squealed, but he was still back on the property. Nothing could keep these wild pigs away. One day when I was thinking about it, it dawned on me. These pigs are teaching me perseverance. They persevered. They needed to eat. They needed their piglets to eat. They needed to survive. And nothing was going to stop them. Nothing we tried stopped these wild pigs from getting what they needed. Perseverance. Perseverance is essential in the spiritual life, is it not? In our life with God, in our life working with God for justice and equality in our world, we need to cultivate perseverance. I pray no matter how I feel. If I feel like praying, if I don't feel like praying, I pray. I persevere in this life with God, even if I don't sense the presence of God in my life. If I'm having a dry spell, I persevere. I keep going. Or if I make mistakes in life, which I always do, things come out of my mouth and I think later, I wish I would not have said that to them, or I wish I would not have done that or acted that way. I could have been more patient and tolerant. I keep trying. I just keep trying even when I fail, Don. Happens all the time. I fail. And I persevere. I hope you do too. Someone asked the monks, "What do you do up in that monastery?" What do y'all do all day? And what'd they say, Sharon? We fall down and we get back up. We fall down, we get back up. We fall down, we get back up. We fall down and we get back up. We persevere, the monk was saying. And when we look at our world and our society and wonder when is real change going to happen? When we work so hard for justice and we want to quit, or we feel hopeless, we persevere. We keep working for justice and equality, for the reign of God, for our sisters and brothers who need us. We persevere. We persevere. We persevere in this life with God. Bartimaeus is a great example of someone who persevered. He was not even a citizen of his society. As I've mentioned before, Baldwin once wrote that there are no second-class citizens in society. You're either a citizen or you're not. And Bartimaeus was not a citizen. And he was by the road begging one day, and he had heard that Jesus was passing through. And as he heard Jesus get closer, he started to cry out, "Son of David, have mercy on me. I need you. I need you, Jesus." And everyone around him was saying, Bartimaeus, quiet down. They were trying to hush him. Hush. Don't say anything. But you see, the louder they got, the louder he got. "Son of David, have mercy on me." Nothing, like those wild pigs, nothing could stop him. He kept crying out. He kept calling out. He persevered. And then Jesus said, "Tell him to come here. Call him here." And I find it interesting that the only thing he owned was that cloak. And he threw that cloak off as quick as he could, as if it didn't even matter anymore. He just threw it off. It was the only thing he owned. That's all he had. And he left it behind. And he persevered. And because he persevered, he experienced the grace of God in a way that he had never experienced the grace of God before. When we persevere in this life with God, we will experience the grace of God in ways that we had never experienced the grace of God before. We persevere. We persevere in this life with God. You may or may not know, but I am a big college football fan. Love college football. I love the pros too, but my job doesn't allow me to watch too many pro games. That's a joke. They're on Sunday. So I love college football. And I was watching a game maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was Florida State and Notre Dame. And the Florida State quarterback, the starting quarterback, was knocked out of the game. His helmet was knocked off. He got injured temporarily. And the backup quarterback came in. And his name is Mackenzie Milton. You have to know this guy's story. In 2018, he was the starting quarterback for, what is it called? Dave, help me out. University of Central Florida. He was their starting quarterback. He had won they had won like 24 games in a row. Like the largest winning percentage in the country. But since they're a small school, they didn't get a lot of national recognition. But he was an outstanding quarterback leading his team. And at the end of the season in 2018, he was tackled. And the defensive player's helmet went into his knee. And it was a gruesome injury. It was so bad that ESPN didn't replay it. His leg bent in ways that your leg is not supposed to bend. It was horrific. And both teams gathered around him and began to pray for him because they all knew how bad it was. And they all loved him because he was such a competitor and a team spirit. And so they took him off the field. And fortunately, there was a Trauma 1 center, hospital, Trauma 1. And they were able to take him to that hospital. And right away, the surgeons knew they had to get to work or he was going to lose his leg. It was that bad. The arteries, tendons, all kinds of stuff was messed up in there. And they didn't want him to lose his leg. And so they performed an emergency surgery. When he woke up from surgery, he looked at his leg. He pulled the sheet up just to make sure that he still had his leg, because he knew how bad it was. And there were pins going down both sides of it. The doctors and the surgeons said, if you ever walk again, it's going to be painful. A lot of nerve damage. But you see, he didn't want to just walk again. He wanted to play ball again. Ball is his life. And he kept asking the surgeons and the doctors, how much longer? How much longer? When can I play again? And the surgeon basically said, there's a very small percentage chance that you'll ever step foot on a football field again. I've never seen anyone with this type of injury play football again. But you see, Mackenzie didn't want to hear that. He wanted to play ball again. He persevered. A year and a half of surgeries and rehab and treatment. Painful treatment over and over again every day, working, had his goal, a day goal. Just continuing to persevere until he got back on the field, could start running again. He got back on the team, and then he transferred to Florida State to play his senior year or his graduate year. And so when he ran out onto that field against Notre Dame, it was amazing. His mom was up in the stands. They captured her. Tears were flowing down her face. His dad, they were just... Even the sportscasters who were supposed to stay even keel, they were misty-eyed, and all they kept saying is just it's the most amazing comeback they'd ever seen. And he drove the team down the field, and they tied the score against Notre Dame. Throwing and running. An amazing comeback. Because he persevered. They told him, you may never walk again. And if you do, you're going to have pain your whole life. And there he was back on the football field, charging down the field. Because he persevered one day at a time. No matter what we're going through in life, church, no matter how we feel, what we're experiencing, what we're facing in life, we continue to persevere. We fall down, we get back up. We fall down, we get back up. We fall down, we get back up. We keep praying, we keep loving one another, caring for one another, and we keep standing for justice no matter what. Because we will experience, and others will experience, the grace of God like we've never experienced it before. We persevere.